everyone, it's Kit's Cars. I've got an interview with three of my supercar owning buddies, and we talk about all kinds of random stuff like intros about what was your first car, what's your first cool car, what's your ideal fleet, picking four for $400,000. So didn't exactly follow the parameters there, but it's a great talk nonetheless. So hope you enjoy it.
It was sticker was $149, and its lease it's 10 down, $2,500 a month for 24 months.
Yeah, I finally ordered Heather's Model X, and I wanted
it hurts.
I wanted the Plaid, but I couldn't even like that. It got up into the 150s, I think.
Yeah.
It's pretty dumb, and especially when I was like half considering the long range, but then I was like, I hate that you have to get the wood interior, and ultimately I'm going to be angry at myself for not getting the fucking Plaid.
So that's literally so I was in a bad mood for the rest of the day after that because I couldn't get carbon interior or a round wheel.
Right? Well, yeah, that I still have to suffer through
the long range. They make you use the last Starfighter controller too.
I don't know what to do about that, but my plan is I'm going to just take a page out of Kit's book and be like, I can suffer the $2,500 payment for a little while, and then like I'll just lease swap the thing because through Tesla.
Dude, you're in San Diego. James Wee at ACG, he's already swapped a bunch of Yokes for actual wheels.
Oh, sweet. Well, and I'm talking about swapping the whole car, but yes, also that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to swap one thing, you might as well swap the rest. But I don't hate the yoke. Like it took me a few blocks, but I don't hate the yoke. Like
it's fine.
I don't ever. So with
look, we can get through. You can get through a whole meal with your hand and a steak knife, but you'd rather have a fork. So saying you don't hate the yoke, again, like we're speaking in relativism instead of is it a good tool or not. And it's
the only time it sucks though is like the only time it's really annoying is in the parking lot because you're never turning it more than this when you're driving, right? Like so it doesn't really matter.
Right, and luckily no one ever goes into parking lots, so we're fine. It's totally okay.
Yeah, but see, even in parking lots, it didn't bug me much because what ends up happening is you grab the thing and you turn it, and by the time you turn it, everything else is like normal wheel. And you can't go more than like a crank and a half, or you can't.
You're going to start pitching me on L. Ron Hubbard next, dude. We're not supposed to conform to the tool. The tool is supposed to conform to us.
Well, have you had your
Tesla's already got problems with people?
You don't know if you have a problem if you haven't gotten your thetans measured. You don't even know if you have a problem. Like have you actually gone? I mean, like you don't know what kind of prehistoric demons. It's like,
listen, I don't know where I stand with the reptilians, right? No, I just don't like philosophically. I disagree with all the accommodation that people make to the tool when it comes to Teslas versus every other tool in the world. We talk about how does the tool conform to the use case, and for some reason these things get a fucking pass.
Yeah, but it looks pretty fucking cool though.
So there is an advantage to it. There is an advantage because you can actually see the cluster better. There's nothing getting in the way. You're not peering through this thing.
Extra visibility. It's also safer.
I've seen you drive a few times, and I've never seen you going like this because you can't tell what the fuck is going on your
in the review of the Mercedes, I actually did that. I can't actually see the temperature, the outside temperature. I watched your review. I have to do this to see the outside temperature gauge.
That's right.
Super annoying, and it makes my camera blurry.
It's so annoying. It makes your camera blurry. Yes. Plus, steering wheels are one of the most dangerous things in an accident to have in front of you. The massively reduced surface area of the yoke actually will prevent many deaths.
Yeah, my dentist is like thumbs up.
You stand by that. You stand by that, huh?
Yeah, I'm a scientist.
I don't know, but what I do hate
I didn't know I was logging into a Teslarati Zoom here. You guys are starting to sound like a Teslarati, man.
What I do hate about the wheel is they put touch controls on it, and touch controls have no like if it's not a button, it's not actually a button. They have no place on a steering.
Totally agree.
No reason to have those.
That's what ruined the Roma for me. Ultimately, there were a lot of things I didn't like about the Roma, but it was forgivable up to the point when I kept bumping into the fucking thing that changed the station while I was driving, or like did some other thing, and I was like, "Get off of my wheel! Like, can I duct tape over this or something? Like, why is it there?"
The thing with the Roma that killed me is that
the haptic controls on the Roma are a train wreck.
They're horrible.
That thing, it's bad news. Yeah.
So I've gotten behind the wheel of a Roma twice, both very short drives. The first drive, they were like, okay, you can drive it, but just be aware that none of the haptic controls work.
Yes, feature.
Okay. So and it was great. You could drive the car without them. It worked. You just couldn't adjust anything. Like the stereo didn't work. The navigation didn't work. You couldn't adjust any of the gauge. Like nothing worked, but you could drive the car. And then I was like, awesome. Okay. And I was thinking like, hey, this maybe this isn't so bad. And then I drove the one with the stuff, and exactly, I turned the volume up. I like turned the cruise control off. Like turning out of the dealership, I was like.
It makes you wonder if anyone actually tested the car before they put it on sale, because it's like, it's literally impossible to not do that if you are a person with hands that are like of normal size. And
if you're a person with hands.
Yes.
This is Italian bullshit.
Exactly.
That's true.
This is the Italian bullshit.
My people are fond of the bullshit.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we do intros this time, because last time and what we did this time also was just jump right into talking about car shit. I forgot to actually talk about who the hell we are.
Well, that doesn't matter. None of us are qualified to talk about anything anyway, so.
That's okay. So I actually have a couple of interview questions.
We're all qualified to talk about the vaccine, okay?
Oh, God.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. This took a turn for the worst. But I got a couple of questions for everyone to answer, just so we can talk about how we got into cars. But yeah, and I think Mark, you answered some of these last time, Bagley, but
did.
the Rosa and John Henry, I don't think I got this from you. So how the hell did you get into cars in the first place?
Michigan goes first.
Go ahead, you can go.
No, I said Michigan goes first.
Oh, damn it. Okay, well, yes. Okay, fine. So, well, I am from the Motor City, although I'm a horrible ambassador for American cars, considering I've owned very few. I worked at like the local VW shop in college, like for fun, and like restored old 911s and stuff like that. So I was like the outcast of that area. But yeah, I mean, cars have always been in my life. I was into racing from the very beginning. You know, my dad would throw on different races, and that was always the one sport that I really wanted to watch when I was younger, more so than like, you know, the traditional ones. And actually the biggest thing though was, you know, being from Michigan, one of the things that Michigan people do, I guess Michiganders, sorry, that's as I should say.
Is that really a thing?
We like to go.
That's the term.
Yes, we like to go up north. It's actually Michiganians, but that's, you know, we don't have to get into that right now. No one says that.
I think
the you
for that.
We go to the Yoop, yes. So in the summertime, we would all go to the Upper Peninsula, and we had like you would sit in a crappy cottage, like getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, but you would have vast amounts of like uncharted lands to explore. And so when I was in first grade, of all things, my dad would bring up we would drive these four-wheelers to actually get back to where the houses were. And it was those like clutchless ones. He would literally, because I couldn't reach the pedals, he'd put it in third gear and be like, go have fun, be back for dinner. And I would just go wail through the forest in third gear, you know, jumping off stuff. And I was hooked at that point, man. I was rolling those things over and doing all kinds of dumb shit. So, you know, it was all downhill from there, essentially, in terms of the car habits.
That's awesome.
I didn't know you.
John Henry, how about you?
I didn't know you worked at a VW shop. That's rad, dude.
Yeah, that was, you know, I was into more tinkering with like the car audio stuff and like some of the electronics at first, but then I started to want to upgrade the car, but I had no money. And I found that like I could trade ECU tuning and doing like, you know, basic like Bosch K-Jetronic calibrations and like some of the early, you know, fuel injection stuff. I kind of taught myself how to do that. And then we were just doing all this crazy shit with like, you know, swapping. We were building Super Beetles and people were building up like Baja Beetles and swapping LSs into them and just doing all sorts of nonsense. So I was all involved in that.
And this is what like started when you were a freshman?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of started kicking around in high school towards like later years, but then in college when I was truly poor and I wanted to do like really dumb car shit, I was like, you know, how can I like avoid handing you dollars? And you know, I did everything that the shop would ask me to do. Like, you need security cameras, I can install that shit, right? All the IT stuff, swapping engines, like whatever they would let me, you know, go nuts on. So I learned a lot through that.
That's very cool, man.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I didn't learn anything useful. Like even in Lemons now, like I still just go for the Sawzall and the duct tape pretty much. But it's like whatever it takes.
I can flee in that order, not the opposite, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you always take stuff off first, then you can always tape it back on if you need to.
Yeah, special skills can lose 10 millimeter very fast.
Absolutely. Yeah. I keep many spares.
All right, John Henry, your turn.
So my dad had 7 cars when he met my mom. So he has the sickness, and his grandfather, he was kind of an orphan. He found out who he really was when he was 18. So like in a lot of cases, like he tried to connect with his real roots very like aggressively once he found out who he was. And his maternal grandfather was a guy named C.T. Silver, who was fairly famous as a coach builder in the 1920s and 30s in New York. And actually owned like a lot of the big old school GM brand sales buildings when they were whole like 6-7 story buildings in New York. He owned like the Buick building and a couple of the other actual car manufacturers. And so like my old man found that out when he was 18 and kind of ran with it, and then ended up, he just turned into a car junkie after that. As soon as he kind of started out getting into television and getting invited to do a lot of like, celebrity pro-am stuff, that was where he went, was like, the Porsche races and the Trans Am stuff and all that. So growing up, it was total learned behavior. Like growing up, it was not good for a marriage, but wake up on a Saturday morning and he'd be like, "Hey, let's go buy a car." Like, no discussion with my mom whatsoever. So, and that happened a lot. That happened like well, you know how like everybody with kids says they want their children to do better than they did. So not on like my or Kit's frequency of car turnover, but for the 80s, it was excessive. It was certainly excessive. So it was, he had, I think, starting when I was very small, one of his buddies was a mechanic on the sports car series Saab race team. So he basically got like a Saab GT3, if you will.
Oh my God.
That he was driving on the street. That was highly illegal. Like,
love it.
And it was so fast. And so, but he had that, and then he had a 308, and then he had a 328, and then he had a DeLorean. He bought my mom a 911. But she
you had a DeLorean growing up? I hate you so much.
He had it for like 6 months, and then was like, "This thing drives like a Volvo. Get it the fuck out of here." And then,
not even a good Volvo either.
No.
And then what else? And then he went. And then he had 2 Maseratis, and he dropped the transmission out of both of them on the road to Bear Valley.
Whoops.
And
that's really not a place you want to lose a trans.
No. And then there was like another Ferrari in the mix. And then he went on this, he turned into Corvette man and went like whole hog on Corvettes. He would get them, replace the flywheel. He had a buddy up at Sonoma that would change the steering rack a little bit and actually got him to drive okay. And after that, he was just kind of hooked on those things and Porsches, and then had my mom driving around in whatever SUV. And then he kind of hit like a flat spot with sports cars, and then started getting into the Rolls Royces. Had a drop top Impala at one point. So it was just like this very ADD car environment. And so it was totally learned behavior for me to be like, yeah, I mean, let's light money on fire in the middle of car lots. And
you were doomed from the beginning.
No, dude, yeah. Completely doomed. Like when I was early 20s, my car payment was more than my rent and my bills.
Oh, good for you.
And my mom was like terrified.
It's amazing.
It was amazing. It was one of those just like, I remember I pulled up and it was an Audi S4. I think it was a 2000.
I had one of those. That was one of my favorite cars.
I know.
Yes, did I?
Bonded on it. And I pulled up to their place and she comes out, and Catholic lady. So, she's saying, "Oh, Jesus Christ." It's not, a good thing. and she comes out and she's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." And then turns around, walks in, closes the door behind her. And I hear her heat seek on my father. So you're hearing like the muffled, like, "Do you see what's going on in there? Like, oh, dude. And that was it. And since then it's been more of a journey, and God bless my wife who puts up with it. And in the beginning it was a sore spot, as I know it is in a lot of relationships, but since then she's realized that it beats Vegas Coke and the world's oldest profession. So now it's looked at as fairly harmless, as long as I don't have an accident on 505 and get a ticket in a GT3. But that's a story for another time.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I remember I think my third date with my wife. I had this S2000 that I'd taken apart and put back. I mostly put it back together and picked her up in the car and said, "Hey, can I take a corner fast?" She was like, "Okay, sure." So I get around this on ramp, and the car had the Dunlop race tires at the time. It had JRC shocks, a big wing splitter.
Oh boy.
So I go into this corner and just crank it down, and the car, the tires were a little bit cold, so it was sliding a little bit. And I look over and I didn't hear anything. Like I was like, "Oh, she didn't scream, yell, say anything." I look over and she's just like this on the side.
She didn't scream at you, right? She didn't yell at you. She didn't scream at you.
She didn't yell at me. She was just like, "I know you said fast, but I wasn't sure. I didn't know you meant that."
That's really nice, man. When I first met Heather, we were a week into our relationship. I had a place out in the Sunset District, and if you know Sunset Boulevard, where it hits slope, there's this really nicely banked circular interchange. Bagley knows. And I thought I was being a cool guy. I had a murdered out RS4.
Yes.
So douchey, like peak douche. Absolutely.
We've gone from peak douche to peak rice, or back the other way.
I'm telling you. And she was actually making fun of me for that car the other day.
Making fun of you? I want that car. I'll take it. Is it still out there?
She was saying that she liked douchebags, and I was like, "Hey," and she was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Do you remember the car you had when we met?" I was like, but dude, so I basically drifted the whole thing. And when we got to the straight on slope, she grabbed my arm, like shook the shit out of me, was like, "If you ever do that again, let me out of the fucking car right now." Like, that was it. And it was like, since then, I have not so much as like done a stoptional on a right turn with her in the car, because I don't need that in my life. But you're blessed that she was like moderately amused by you taking a corner fast.
Yeah. She didn't get out of the car, so hey.
That's awesome. I have a theory that this whole like every like no one, when you take out a woman on a date and they automatically hate the stuff that we do, is like this like that they all talk about, that they're supposed to do, but they secretly really like it. I think it's a secret society it's
a land war. Yeah, that makes I see your theory. It makes perfect sense. It's a land war. It's push your fence line as far into territory as you can from the jump, so that as you give up what they already had, they're like, "Oh, thank you."
That's right.
Thank you for what
Look, it benefits both of us.
Yeah. Yes. See, it makes sense. It makes
really
sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything I disagree with yet. Like, yes, I have not heard a single thing I disagree with.
What's the next thing? Isn't there like a 4-car quiver or something like that? Sorry, I don't want to jump ahead.
No, there's the next question is, I want to know your first car, your first cool car. And I will punch you gently in the chin if they're the same, because they shouldn't be. Everyone should enjoy shitbox life for some time.
Oh, yes. So I actually, I'll go if nobody else wants to go first. So I actually had a Jeep Cherokee. It was my first car. Like, you know, the big boxes, not the Grand Cherokee, just the regular one, which are now apparently like super cool and desirable, but they were
very expensive.
They were most certainly not at the time. But you know, like I did what any high school kid would do with such a car, and I immediately put 215s in it and like 2,000 watts of additional speakers, and so it more than fulfilled its purpose of like shaking itself into complete oblivion within a year. You know, and everything rattled. But yeah, no, that was my first car, but coolest car. So I would say I broke this down a couple different ways because as you ended with, I actually think shitbox life is now what I've come to realize is like the life. So I've come.
Oh, it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. But setting that aside, my first cool car was I bought a brand new Mark IV Jetta GLI. That was my first cool car.
All right.
I think it was 2004. But I quickly sold that and upgraded to the aforementioned B6 S4. And actually, I had a unicorn, which I am so sad that I sold. I found a B6 S4 Avant in Imola yellow, which I converted to a Euro RS4 the following year, and then sold for all the money, or so I thought. But now I've lost out on like untold tens of thousands of dollars by doing so. So
awesome.
Yes.
Bagley, what was your first car? I don't know this about you.
So my first cool car, I didn't go first car. I went first cool car. First cool car was a Saab 900.
That is cool.
That is cool.
It wasn't particularly fast. It wasn't particularly interesting. It was kind of a stripper. It came from Thoroughbred Motorcars in Nashville, who also had the Ferrari franchise at the time. But it was well looked after. It was well maintained. It was StoneX reliable. I put a shit ton of miles on that thing, and I actually learned how to drive a front wheel car kind of fast.
Yeah.
They had that bizarre longitudinal mode front wheel drive, right? Like, didn't they have? I never understood how that transmission could possibly work, but
it works because the way that it's stacked on top of each other is how it works. Which is also why all of your accessory belts are at the flipping firewall, which is actually not a fun time.
Yeah, it almost looks like a transfer case more than a transmission.
Nice.
Yep.
That's true. My first car was a 1985 two-door S10 Blazer with Chevrolet's first foray into four-cylinder motors.
Womp womp.
It was $700. It had a blue plaid interior with no radio.
Yes.
My radio was a Craig one speaker tape deck, duct tape, but not like adhesive tape. Duct tape, like wind the duct tape into a rope and tie the handle into a hole through the dashboard.
Very classy.
And it was very clear that I was not supposed to go long distances in it because it was a death trap. And it actually looked okay from the outside. It was white, straight and everything, and the normal wheels not all screwed up. But I was dating a girl in Moraga, so I immediately put on from San Francisco. I immediately put on a ton of miles going back and forth, and then I think they were out of town at one point or something, and my cousin and I got a hair up our ass, and it was like, let's go to Tahoe. Oof. And it caught fire on 80 a week before my 17th birthday at the top of Donner Summit. So no power, anything, right? More testosterone than common sense. I turned to my cousin and I'm like, well, I still got brakes, but it's not power. I still got steering, not power. Maybe if we roll downhill, it'll put the fire out.
Oh.
And then you realize that you were feeding it more oxygen.
Did I, Mark? You think so?
And then you realize that you were feeding the fire more oxygen.
Oh, did I? You think so?
Maybe.
I don't think so. I didn't realize that. So we hit what must, I swear to God, he says 80, but it was probably 70 something. Going down that hill, black smoke billowing over the windshield, and roll into the gas station there, right at the bottom of the Donner Grade.
Because that's where you should go
Pass
for a
Road,
fire.
right there.
Absolutely. And they come out and it settles down and they douse the car in water or whatever. And now we're fucked. You know, not enough money for this adventure in the first place. Everything in the car smells like a tire fire, and including us. And so I go over to a payphone and I call my old man. And he's like, "Oh, well, you couldn't possibly be in Donner because you know you're not supposed to drive that car that far." Hangs up on me. Ooh. So then I got to take paper money and go get more change. But the gas station's out of change. And if you know that area, that's the only thing on that side of the freeway. You got to go all the way to the other side of 80 and then start walking down towards Truckee to get change. So I do that, but there's no pay phones around there. So I walk back to the 76 station, make another phone call. Yeah, so I got my cousin Randy here. We're gonna need a ride. He goes, "Yeah, I'll think about it." Hangs up on me again. Literally leaves us there overnight.
What?
Goes up the next day, cool as a cucumber. "Hey boys, how's the weekend going?" Just absolutely fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. I never fucked with that dude for the balance of high school. It was
that's a good plan.
Good object lesson.
Yeah.
That was the first car. First cool car was probably that S4. I mean, so after that fire car, I had a 2-door 92 Yukon. Okay. It was pretty legit. Like it was pretty, like I saved up a bunch of dough and like had a couple 18s but it was legit, you know? I mean, it was a horrible color. It was bright red with gold pinstripes. It was, it was such a color. It was nothing, and it had like the red plastic grill instead of the chrome. So anywhere that should have been chrome was red.
Yeah.
I look like a fire lieutenant.
Yeah.
But no, that B5 S4 was my first cool car, and I modded it and blew it up because that's what.
Was it at least an exciting blow up? Like, was it 87 psi of boost, or was it something like more mundane?
Oh yeah, dude, glory run, westbound on the Bay Bridge coming out of the tunnel. Dropped it, floored it. Started out real good, and then the head gasket let go.
As they do.
Yes, as you do. And I was the asshole fouling up, driving to and from San Francisco for half a day when I couldn't get it out of the middle lane of the Bay Bridge with all of its parts and water.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always especially good when it's like a fancy car that does that and not like a total beater. People tend not to make fun of you or honk or anything.
Oh, dude, I got so verbally abused. It was really something. And the best part is that I still owed, at that time, a pretty incredible amount of money on that car. So I drove a pair of Nikes and took the bus until I could get it back to running. So I mean, it was just, the whole thing was an absolute shit show.
See, I had a near brush with a same generation S4, near the same time. I had purchased myself a 1997 BMW M3, which was and I guess it was about 4 years old. This was probably in 2001. Thinking I was all badass, and then my friend chipped his S4, and we were coming back from Thunder Hill. We just done a track day, and the cars were pretty similar on track, but we started heading down the 505, and he punches it and I punch it and his car just walks away. And I was like, dang it, I can't have this.
That twin turbo was stout at the time, man.
It was, man. It really was.
So Dynan supercharger kit later, do it again. And of course, that inspires him to go get more parts, and it became a little bit of an arms race. And the problem was with that, shooting my whole wad into a Dynon supercharger kit was there wasn't much more I could do there. I added an aftercooler, smaller pulley, started slipping. Then I broke everything south of the motor. I mean, the transmission, the drive shaft, the differentials, both half shafts, the wheel bearings, the diff mount.
If there's one thing Shitbox Life has taught us, and Bagley, I'm sure you'll agree, it's that the S52 and S54s do not like to be modified in any way. They are already producing as much power as they should, and you ought to just leave them alone.
Which is why I don't, actually. I mean,
you can't do it.
It's interesting, though. What was that?
You can't.
What's the one?
I can't
you guys have to translate this shit for me. What's the one? Let me think about what year it was. Maybe started around 2010, and you started seeing all the Beamer guys show up with ESS superchargers on them, I think. Or
I think it was earlier than that, but yeah. So
they were proper fucking fast, man.
Yep.
Properly fast.
Sure.
You see them at the half-mile events running 170s.
Oh, it's a supercharged V8. It should be.
Here's the thing: is they were properly fast once you got them moving, and the problem was below 5,000 RPM, they're exactly like stock.
Yes.
So if you look at the dyno charts, the chart they literally laid over stock, they make about 1 psi of boost up until about 5,000 RPM, and because there's centrifugal supercharger, then they start making boost, which means that a half-mile event, when you're moving, you can stay in the power band. It's great. But you take one of those to Thunder Hill and try to pull out, try to get out of turn 6, and it's not going anywhere.
I mean, that's the story with the stock motor too, though. Is all the they're not great around town. There's just not a whole lot of power, down low, and then you start revving the bolts off it, and it just screams, and it sounds great, but
Interesting.
Yeah.
Your neighbors don't love you when you do that, coming home at 9,000 RPMs.
Yeah, it turns out.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the fun one. Let's talk ideal fleet. So you've got 4 garage slots and $400,000. What do you put in?
500,000. The 400,000 number, I just take issue with. It's a weird.
And I assume we're talking a non-COVID market here, because that would be like a Toyota Corolla would be the extent of your fleet right now, I think, right?
Yeah, the Accord SE, a Honda Odyssey, and I'm just
what are the rules? Is it 400 in reality or 500 in the upside down? Because that's the deal I'm ready to make right now.
Really?
Oh, okay. Well,
I think you need more than 100 grand on the upside down.
I think so too. Yeah,
I'm willing to take it. I mean, I don't care. It's just a discussion. So, let's hear it. Let's hear what your 4-car garage looks like.
Bagley?
All right, fine. I'll go. 991 FF. V8 Vantage.
Oh, interesting.
955 turbo.
Oh. Which 991? The one you have, obviously.
Well, so admittedly, I already yanked 2 out of my existing because they're what I'd want. I don't want something other than what I already own. But
I love that.
It's pretty good.
You're literally living the dream. Is basically another way.
I am living my own dream.
Subtle flex.
This is nice. Yeah, that's good. That means I could just add a couple of cars to my garage and have the question answered.
You could. Yes. You could.
Yes.
I do want a Vantage, though. I mean,
if you had more money, if Kent was a more benevolent dictator and gave us some more fucking cash, would you get a V12 Vantage?
Fuck yes, I would.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say the number 5 slot on my list was gonna be a V12 Vantage, but I didn't have 5 slots or enough money to do that, so I could not.
Yeah, I struggle with the Vantage because they are beautiful. They're really beautiful cars, but the V8 to me was disappointing enough to where I just don't know if I could get excited about it. And the manual V12 versions are pricey enough to where same thing, on a price performance level, not sure I can justify that.
So
I can see how someone would.
So it's number 5 on my list.
Let's be clear. The 4.3 sucks.
Yeah.
The 4.3 is miserable. You don't want a 4.3. Nobody wants a 4.3. In fact, nobody wanted a 4.3 when they had it in market. Like it took the 4.7 to wake that car up and make it interesting. And quite frankly, I think even the 4.7 is interesting and beautiful, and it drives well enough. And you never, ever, ever activate the 320 by 240 Garmin unit that they stuck behind the motor in the dash. Just don't do that. Like doing that is
the best thing
really
about the navigation
like a buzzkill.
That's pretty good.
The best thing about the navigation of that car is the icon that your car represents in it. It takes up like a third of the screen. It's this huge like pyramid that you can't see anything around.
But it's still all of that aside, at some point you're gonna be like, why didn't I get the fucking V12? That's the biggest problem with that car.
Well, and in this case, the answer is because Kit's fucking dictatorship. Bagley had $500,000, he'd be rolling a V12.
Roll me some spliffy.
Good point.
LaRosa, what about you?
Okay, so I actually I didn't spend all my budget, I don't think, actually. So I was feeling bad about this.
You're a shitbox monk.
This is true shitbox life.
So mine is E39 M5. Le Mans Blue Caramel fully restored. So that's actually pretty expensive. That would be probably like 60, 70 grand by the time I'm done getting through it. 600 LT. I certainly appreciate the 600 LT, and I know Kit does as well. And having driven them back to back at that Apple event back when we were at AWS, like I was like, yeah, this is the one. Like even the 675, I was like, get this out of here. Model S Plaid, and I've just ordered one today, so I'm on my way to one of those slots. Yes, and then my shitbox E36 prepped race card, which
that's
I also have.
Track slot. That's track.
Yeah, track slot.
How could that not be 400K?
It's close.
Okay. So you're like, you've left like 5K over.
I don't like to leave money on the table, as you know,
Okay.
Kid. So
you got to be pretty close. You got to be 390, something like that.
I'm pretty fucking close, but I'd like to believe that I could negotiate a couple of good deals with some of the bigger cars, and I'd probably be leaving 30 or 40 on the table, but you never know.
Okay.
Yes.
Almost
But yes,
enough to fund Bagley's.
I'm 50% there. Bagley's 100%. I'm 50% of the way to my perfect fleet here.
Bagley's overdrawn, dude. That V8 answer was just saying, this is bullshit.
Well, fine. You want to swap in my E39 M5?
There you go.
No, I like the.
Now I'm underdrawn.
I like the answer. I think it was a very diplomatic way of saying that the government support of this 4-car quiver is horseshit. What four car? So I have a follow-up question for Kit on this one, because I asked it of myself when he asked this of me, and maybe it's better that he and I are going sequentially here. Because I asked this, Kit, when you asked the question 4-car quiver, I don't know that there's 4 that I could commit to. If I'm being really honest, like if I'm being really like I've told Adam at Amazon with every lease, no, this one's going to full term. And he laughs.
I've never said that.
Up on me and everything else. Like, I want to believe that I could. And I tried to think of the question in 2 different ways. Like there's, what are you hot to trot for right now that you know you'd probably flip at some point? And then like really dig in, own your ugliness, be vulnerable, right? And what 4 could you actually commit to? I.e., if somebody said you can't, which wasn't part of your question, Kit, but 4 cars to rule them all, you can never get other cars.
Yeah, that's bullshit. I would never agree to that if that was the question, because
when John Henry says never, what he means is like you'd have to live with these cars for like 2 years.
That's what I assumed. So I said 2-year lease maximum. I'm willing to commit to this for 2 years. That's
all right. It. Okay. That informs the discussion a little bit more. Okay, good.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. Because it's just the commitment of the question started to get me.
Of the 4 that I said, the only one I'm willing to commit to permanently is like, I think I would keep a track slot permanently. Like I just found that.
You're not even willing to commit to the Le Mans Blue and Caramel permanently?
I would say like 80% chance, yes. But like, I know myself, same as JH. And I'm like, I just don't trust that at some point I'm going to be like, I love this thing, but I need space in the garage for something else. Like I want to believe that I would keep that car permanently, and I likely would, but I can't say for 100% sure. The only one I know for sure is I am not a person that will buy a GT3 and track it. I am not that person. I do not want, I don't care if I had billions of dollars. Like, I just do not like a car that's that extreme, that expensive. And like, and just sort of like being that guy on track that everyone's like, oh, a speed racer over here. Like, I like driving the piece of shit 25-year-old track slut and just beating the hell out of it and putting it away wet. And like, you know, like fixing shit when it breaks. Like, that's just kind of that's who I am as a track person.
I envy that. I think that's very cool. I think that's
yeah.
very cool.
The magic thing for me about the GT3 is that I could pack it up, drive it to the track, unload my stuff, and drive directly on track, not having to do anything. Like, I even forgot to set my tire pressures the last time. Running around the track all day.
Mad respect for the car. It's fantastic and I love it, but it's also a personality thing where I'm like, I just can't, you know, I feel like I can't push it on track because I'm worried about damaging it. Whereas track slut, I'm like, fuck it. If it goes off, like, I'll just replace the fucking fenders or whatever, brakes when it goes off. You know what I mean? Like,
Jesus, with a straight
but you push it and you chase Osgood. You chase Osgood around, you go off track sometimes and you don't care. It's nice, right? Like,
that's a good segue though. So Kit, you have a GT3 and I mean, we're all pretty sharp listeners here. You got a GT3 in one of your slots. What are the other three?
See, this is how I really struggled with, is that this actually, I realized afterward that I'd asked you guys to do the impossible, and that, you know, if I had asked this question 10 years ago, like, I think 400K, no problem. I could have figured out the 4 cars that I would have had, but it's actually a really difficult question right now because I was like, okay, here's my first 2 and then 2 cheap ones, but I was already over budget with the first 2 cars. So but my original answer was going to be 600 LT, GT3 RS, a Golf R, or some sort of cheap SUV and a Tesla Model 3 with autopilot.
That's a good fleet.
I was already overdrawn with 600 LT and the RS. So I was like, wait,
shit, dude. So wait a minute. So I asked for more money, and you're like, no, that wasn't the question.
I did. So I redid it. I said, okay, I can do this. I can get under 400K. And the answer is, I would give up the RS. So there's no GT3 in the stable. There's a 600 LT because you can track those cars.
You can,
and
they're very good.
Yeah. So I have a 600 LT, a 718 Spider, a Tesla Model 3 with autopilot, and some sort of inexpensive SUV, something under 50K.
What happened to the Golf R? Why'd you kick the Golf R out of the stable?
I was debating this back and forth. That would the use case for the Golf R is nearly 100% overlap with a Model 3.
It is. This is true.
They're all-wheel drive. Like, you can take them both to the snow. They don't have ground clearance. You can't actually go off-road from them. They don't actually have that much space in them that a Model 3 wouldn't. And the Model 3 has autopilot, and the Golf does.
I'd take the Golf.
I'm with you, Bags. I'm with you, man.
And look, this isn't like hate on Tesla time. Like, I've had a P90D with Ludicrous. It's phenomenal at what it does. I'm not like, pure anti-Tesla 24/7.
Dude, before you showed up, these two were going to try to like get me to do, what is it? They get clear.
The yoke.
The Teslarati, these guys, they were.
So pretty soon you're going to be in a group posting about how fast your car is and with no context at all.
Correct.
Okay.
Very fast.
Right.
Where do I put the blinker fluid?
That's
correct.
Right.
Oh, the Tesla groups are such a are such an incredible. I had my first post removed from the Tesla group because for violating the be nice thing. But I mean, I put up something that was just gentle. It was like, I would guess that somewhere around 87% of this group was riding a donkey before they purchased their Tesla.
That's the thing.
What an actual modern car is like.
I actually am of the opinion that like you need to separate out, now that they're coming out with like the true performance centric cars. If you strip out all the Model 3 and Y owners and you focus only on the plaids and the like upcoming roadsters, you would probably remove not all, but probably I would say 80% of the douchebaggery, hopefully. Because the problem is you have the Prius driver Model 3 people that are like, I bought this car because all I care about is driving slow and trying to save energy. And you're like, and like, this is the future. And like, you're all stupid for diesel dinosaur burners. And I'm like, I bought this car because it's stupid fucking fast. And I just want to beat on it. And like, it's well aligned with my use case on a daily basis. Like,
I still remember when you came down to pick up the P100D from me, And we were actually drawn the way to the bank. I was like, okay, yeah, have you been in a P100D? And he said no. And I was like, okay, watch this, and stomped on from a light, and you kind of went.
Yes, it was, and I still to this day, there are very few cars that you can repeatedly just make yourself go like, holy shit, this car is fast.
Yeah, absolutely, agreed.
And I've had that car now for 2 years, and to this day, this morning, I went to go to the drugstore. I'm like, what the, like, it's every time you're like.
See, I only ever got to do that with my dog, who was endlessly confused every time I would do a ludicrous mode pull, and she would get launched across the back end of the car, and she's like, this makes me a shitty pet owner. Please do not call Sarah McLachlan and the SPCA on me. Please, I don't want to hear from Sarah McLachlan.
We don't need the arms of the angels here. That's a great point though, because I think I messaged you guys when I messed around up in town with the Taycan, with that Turbo S Taycan, and it was the same. It was basically like you had a location agnostic Superman ride from Magic Mountain.
It's just a roller coaster that you get to ride every day. And that's all it is. I mean, that's the way I look at it. It's not the best at anything driving dynamics wise, but it corners okay for how big it is. Like you can certainly throw it around. Like it's not terrible. And it has an ass cooler, and I can precondition it to like be cold before I get outside.
Wait, the new ones don't have ass coolers though, I thought.
They have them.
No,
they have brought them back.
Yeah, there was a time when you couldn't get them. The P100D, we had them like a secret option. It wasn't supposed to, but it had them, and we're like,
awesome.
I had ass coolers.
They didn't make it an option for the X that we just ordered, and I was pissed.
Did you get the vegan leather?
Yeah, no, on the Plaid they do. Right.
Oh.
Yeah, only on the Plaid.
No, this is a requirement for me now. I've come to realize that that's one of the things I like about it most is its ability to refrigerate me in a way like no other car can. There's nothing like when it's like 90 out and you cool the car to like 60 before you get to it. So you get in and you're actually cold. I'm like, oh, this is so awesome.
It's the best thing to get into your car and your nipples are already hard.
And I'm like, and it's your own personal amusement park, right? So again, it's like a totally different use case where I'm like, this is no longer a car. This is me being like a 12-year-old kid just going like, wee, fast.
I am curious. I am very curious if once we get the X, if I will change my mind. I'm very curious. I've driven a bunch of them. I've ridden in a bunch.
I bet you will. It converted me, but it's only in the context of I have to have the V12 or whatever other stupid space car in the fleet when you actually want to go driving. Because anybody that tells you the Plaid is the one car to end them all is fucking stupid. And
that's not for me. So for me, I got to have a pickup truck.
Yep.
So that starts out. If I get to actually be a grown up about this and not have constraints of numbers, I would have. Then I would either.
Isn't that what being a grown up is having the constraint of numbers? Like,
absolutely not. So okay. So to hear me out.
This is America. I should borrow whatever.
No. Hear me out on this. Hear me out on this, because my buddy, who's actually not, he's from Bulgaria. He made this point because he's a picky eater and he's a grown up. And I was like, dude, be a grown fucking man, just order off the menu, right? Like trying to make that point, like that being an adult is, to your point, adhere to the numbers and like make it work. And he looked at me, stopped what he was doing, and he looked at me and he said, I'm a grown fucking man. I'm paying for this meal. I can eat what the fuck I want. If I want to dip broccoli and ketchup, I can do that. And I really thought that was an excellent point. And I think it was a very contrasting view to kind of the automated, autopilot that all of us slip into of make the numbers work. So fuck Kit's numbers. And I'm going to say number one is either a Raptor or a T-Rex. Or because in this hypothetical, if I can have a bigger garage, then I would go 250 Tremor for sure.
I was about to say, what about a Tremor?
Yeah,
for sure.
Right.
But I mean, my problem with small garage trademark that, my Raptor barely fits in it. I have to pull the tow hitch out to close the garage door. So if I was staying at the ranch, 250 Tremor all the way. And so there's that. And then if we're doing numbers, then FF. If we're not doing numbers, then the Lusso. And I think I would have a GT3 in it because I am a douchebag. And And
I just really like the fact that the T-Rex and the FF or / Lusso are not douchebag cars, but the GT3 is.
Totally.
That's not me. That's not me saying that. That's not me saying that.
Okay, who's saying that?
No, the GT3 is objectively the best of those for sure. Like, no, not even a chance that you're a douchebag.
Yeah, but it's got a giant wing, and like I hear you, LaRosa. Like you're that guy when you.
You're part of the Wang gang.
You're talking from a non-car person's perspective.
If you're trying to fly under the radar, he's trying to fly under the radar. See, coming from my Midwestern roots, like what I did not enjoy about owning the Ferrari was all of the unwanted attention I got when I would arrive to places, because I was just driving because I loved it, not because I wanted other people to like look at me. Absolutely. And the GT3 does have that effect. The thing I like about the Plaid, also getting back to the daily thing, is I'm totally anonymous. Nobody has any fucking idea that I'm driving anything that's any better than the Model 3 Prius edition, right? Like your average person.
The ultimate sleeper. It's the Mercury Marauder.
Yes, Mercury Marauder.
Congrats. How can we doll up a Crown Vic to make some old asshole pay a bunch of money for it?
Panther
those things were proper fast though, like those Impala SS's, Mercury Marauder. Like, how do we make a giant thing move very fast?
There is no way you were cooler coming from the Motor City than driving one of those fucking things. I promise you. You could show up in your GT3, and if a Mercury Marauder pulled in, no one would be paying attention to you. They would all be
number
talking,
4,
whoa, the pinnacle of the Panther platform. Tell me about this. Like, what would you done?
Number 4, I'm torn. Number 4 is either something small, drop top, like a 4C Spider or Kit's car, 718 Spider, that'd be cool. All those cars we were talking about the other night. Or a Dodge Demon. Like,
what car?
I if I was in the Demon, I would miss, something small and sprightly and tossable and drop top. Like, that's an experience, that's cool. But especially living up here, so's going to the drag strip with a factory warranty.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. As I was going to say, in all other use cases, you would be sick of that car within a month.
Right.
But if you're going to take it to the drag strip regularly, like, okay,
dude,
there's
an NHRA strip 10 minutes from our new place. So
that's the only case I've heard ever where I'm like, okay.
Right. So it's that fourth slot is either kind of like that lifestyle, fun, drop top, sprightly, tossable, or build another GTR. Maybe I could do that, nice, something.
That's more interesting.
Yeah, like an Alpha 20 or some bullshit like that. Try to run 7s in that big fat GTR or
God Zero.
Yeah, but the thing about the Demon is that you don't have to mod it. It just goes. It's just my buddy in Reno, Bags. He has a Demon, comes down to Sacramento Raceway to run it.
Okay.
The fucking thing runs like low 9s easily, over and over and over again.
But they have Mopar or no car.
It's a single tasker. I mean, it's a single tasker vehicle. That is what it does. And that is all it does. It is abysmal at just about everything else. But yes, it is as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned for if you're going to do drag on a regular basis. I mean, how do you do factory warranty? And it's going to break too, because it is.
That's where I'm coming from. Have you ever seen Dax Shepard's movie where he worked with his wife for the first time? What's it called? Like Hit and Run or something like that?
Yes. And it's horrible.
It is.
And I really hate him because he married her.
He basically made the movie so that he could build that car. And
she's way too cool and hot for him, just for the record, also.
So
is this your on record? I'm the Dax Shepard stand-in, LaRosa.
Yes.
So
got it.
There's a scene in that though, and maybe you guys have run into this too. So Heather saw that movie and she really identified with this scene where I guess he gets a compliment about his car while they're getting gas, and she's like, "People that like that car, let's call them your peer group, and they're all of a certain ilk. Let's call them rapists." and literally ever since then, whenever I say, "Oh yeah, look at that," like, I'll see a Demon here and there on the road, or even that red eye thing, and I'll be like, "Yeah, oh yeah," and she'll be like, "Really, peer group?" So there's certain cars that are not allowed to, that's the tagline, like your peer group, and it's not allowed to live here. And I feel like that fourth slot, I have like a motivation to go in that direction, but the 718 Spider would be like the welcome edition. You know what I mean?
The drop top is super compelling, and that is a good point that I forgot to consider. Is like all of us live in or around California, and like no better place to enjoy a drop top really in the entire world if there is a case to be made for that. And that's where like, you know, I really, to be honest with you, one of the slots I missed, which I could almost add this as a fifth car for free because it's so cheap, is I missed my E46 M3 drop top. That thing was phenomenally good and can be had for like 15 grand. Like I'd throw that in the mix just to have one.
Nobody wants the verts. Everybody wants a slick top.
And I don't understand why, because like I'm not taking it to the track. I understand that it's worse as far as handling goes, but
that's the one with the little lines on the side.
Yeah.
Those were cool, dude. Those were really cool.
And there's a million of them. The little lines.
The little lines on the side.
I'm so used to talking to BMW dorks that it's so refreshing to hear someone not know what the hell an E46 is.
No, that thing looked really cool. A buddy of mine bought one
20 years ago.
They still look good.
No,
even
like
though they're 20 years old, they still look fine. Like they don't
they look great. No, he bought one. It was maybe like 2-3 years ago. He got hair up his ass, and he was like, "I want one of those again." And he bought one and drove it around for a while, and then sold it to one of the Speed SF boys, who now turned that car into a full race car.
Why would they do that? That's the wrong car to turn into a race car. Why would they do that?
Well, I think you just answered your own question, though.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I remember one of the indelible memories about the E46 for me is that I just bought my S2000, and I put some parts on it. It was loud and it was uncomfortable, but it was really fun on track. And the car that I was considering before I got the 04 S2000 was an E46 M3 convertible, but I was like, it's gonna suck on track, so I really don't want it.
It does.
And I showed up at Button Willow, and a guy brought an E46 M3 convertible that it was SMG, like it was the worst possible kind. It was the red. Was it Imola on the E46?
Imola red.
Yeah, Imola red.
With the red interior that clashed, so it was terrible. But he stuck Toyo RA1s on it, bone stock otherwise, and he was turning faster lap times than me, and I was like,
the SMG on track is actually quite good. It was an around town use case problem, but yeah,
totally
that thing works fine on track.
Lift off the gas. Lift off the gas.
I shouldn't have to do that. It should fucking do it on its own.
I don't debate this.
But that's the same problem with the Vantage. We were talking about that the other night. It's the same.
Except I think the Vantages is worse than SMG.
Oh, sure. It sure as hell is. Yeah, the SMG is not terrible if you're not on hills, really. So
I have no experience, as you guys know, in the BMW, but I found the Vantage was very livable if you lifted off the gas when you pull the lever.
Well, shouldn't we see, JH, I feel like we need to have a little bit of a BMW intervention here. Like, this is literally a free vert that you get to add to your fleet. Like, a good example can be had for like 15K. So, like, why not just get one and do that instead of paying all the money? You know what I mean?
Nah, he's too invested in the anti-BMW thing.
It's not
he is the founding member of the anti-BMW club.
What if I buy one? Not true. What if I buy one and give it to you to drive for a while, and then you can give me a report?
I celebrate your enthusiasm for BMWs. It's not that I'm even invested in it. It's just uninteresting to me. I don't know. I just don't know.
But I believe that we could change your mind about that if you gave the vert a little time and showed it.
Okay, here's the only BMW I've ever been interested in is that little clown shoe fucker. That little.
Oh, that thing is cool.
The M Coupe. The M Coupe. That thing's bad. I would drive that for sure.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you and everybody else that fucking wants that car now, they're unbelievably stupidly priced. And so
are they really?
I remember when the original M Coupe, the original Z4 M Coupe, whatever you kind of call it, came out, or Z3, the original one, the E36 based one. They did something to the rear suspension to make it to where it had no traction in a straight line. And even the normal, the 240 horsepower ones, you could do rolling burnouts all the way down Central Expressway and back. And I know this for a fact.
Who doesn't love that?
It was so much fun.
That's fantastic.
What was the motor in the clown shoe looking one?
So originally it was an S52 with 240 horsepower, 236 foot-pounds, something like that.
S52. How many cylinders were in it?
Six.
Always six. That's always the answer.
Okay, no, I'm just learning here. Yeah, so that thing's pretty cool. I like that. And that other one from Really Big Trouble, La Rosa, that's the one that you're building, right? The Chevy Chase car from Really Big Trouble.
That's right.
That shark nose some bitch. That thing's cool.
I am gonna build one. It did not make my list because I'm ashamed of the fact that I haven't been able to execute on that project yet, given that I've been talking about it for about a year now. So, but
I feel like that's what friends are for. So hopefully us and all your other friends, it's like when you have that friend that's been writing the book for 12 years, like every time you see him, like, how's that book coming?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It will happen. It must happen. I will do a resto mod on one of those. Absolutely.
What's that? Wait, so I can sound smart to other people. What's that called?
24.
635.
No. Bagley just said it. An E24.
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 Yeah, you got to say the chassis code because it's not actually on the car, and that makes you so much cooler. We can call it something that everybody knows what it is, but it's not on the car.
Yeah, that's the car from Really Big Trouble.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it does kind of make sense because they make a lot of cars with the exact same model name. And so then you're trying to explain what years were this one. And then if you just use the chassis code, you're like, okay, I know what you're talking about.
It's everybody does it. Like the GTR guys do it, and there's 4 of those, you know, R34, R35, like.
Well, see, look, we have something in common. I could not tell you what any of those numbers are or mean or represent as it relates to GTRs. Because I am in the Kirby Fong No Rice Club.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Founding member.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh no.
So that's what we should do. We should do some sort of a foreign exchange program where you drive JDM and I'll drive a Bimmer.
I actually think that would be an awesome like episode / review. It's like,
and then you and I get stoned on sodium pentothal and tell the
that would be an interesting wrinkle to add.
Turns out that's one way. Like that's a one-way trip.
I was just listen. As a former journalist, I'm invested in the truth, Bagley. That's what
at any cost.
I'm telling you.
Okay, Woodward.
I'm telling you.
Love that.
Kit, what else you got?
That's it for this week. I mean, we've been going for over an hour, which is great.
Nice.
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to bounce in a second too.
Yeah. No, I gotta figure out dinner. So yeah. But thanks everyone. We'll do this again sometime soon.
Well, I guess next time we'll talk about the next time foreign exchange program topic of discussion.
Yeah.
I'm laying the challenge down. I'm telling you.
I think we have to set a budget and then we have to decide, and then everyone has to participate, and then we just start swapping things.
That would be fairly incredible.
I kind of like that idea.
I'm down.
Actually.
But wait a minute, Bagley's not really like Bags. What are you anti? I haven't really heard you kick the snot out of like one thing in particular.
I'm really anti Mopar.
He's anti Mopar.
Mopar. Yes. Something.
You get a demon.
That's a very different price point than the exchange program we're talking about here.
I got it. You know, we're gonna get him a fucking shadow. He's got to drive in a shadow.
Oh no! I love it. The pinnacle of Mopar.
And whatever we get, Kit, it's got to be chalk. That's
that's the only thing I really object to is the color.
Nice.
I appreciate you boys.
All right, guys.
Likewise.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Hey guys.